What advice would you have for someone wanting to become an editor, possibly can't afford college, maybe they would just learn from watching YouTube videos, which I know there's a plethora of information from children online that you could just learn all sorts of interesting little techniques. Where would you suggest someone start, and how can they actually get in the business and start either interning or working?
That is a good question, and it's a tricky one to answer. I mean, obviously, obviously they have, like, you learn by doing. Mm-hmm. So edit everything you can. When I was in film school and I decided that editing was what I wanted to go into, I made it a point to tell all my friends that I want to be an editor. This is what interests me the most, and so I started working with their films and editing as many films as I could. When I then made my way up the ranks as an assistant, working for Sally Menke, for example. She would give me scenes in like the movie All the Pretty Horses that Billy Bob Thornton directed. She gave me some scenes to cut, and it was great that I would do the work and I would send it off to her, and she would evaluate it and call me and tell me. I was on location in San Antonio while she was in LA, and she would give me her thoughts on the work that I'd done and tell me what she had done to it, and why the changes that she had made and why she'd made them, and it was very inspiring to me. It kept me going. It's something that, now that I'm in the editor's chair, I try to do with my assistants, because I think there's no question that it contributed to me getting where I am. In terms of how to break into the business, everybody goes down a different path. I can say without question that I've worked with a lot of people who didn't go to college. So going to film school is not necessarily something that you need to have done. But I found it very helpful because I established relationships with my classmates that led directly to me finding work. But you know, when I was just first starting out in Los Angeles, the way people would try to find work in editorial, if they didn't know anyone, literally there would be facilities. There are facilities that are primarily editing houses, and you'd walk around with a stack of resumes and you'd knock on every door and you'd see if someone would allow you to talk to them for like 15 minutes, and you'd hand a resume, and maybe they would end up needing someone at some point down the line, and that could lead to work. Sometimes it did. Usually, what happened to me is that I was introduced to one person in this industry, a guy named Bob Layton, who was Rob Reiner's editor. I'd worked with a friend of his when I was in New York, and Bob introduced me to his assistants, and they in turn made some introductions, and through that I managed to get my first internship. And as luck would have it, one of the people I worked with on that internship got a job working on a movie that was paying, and she asked me to come aboard and help out as an apprentice editor, and that got me into the union. And once I was in the union, I became eligible for a lot more work. And through those same connections, I was able to land my first union job on the picture Boogie Nights. So, but you know, everyone's path is different.
Sure. Last question. Just okay. Lastly, why editing? When you were in film school, why not be the DP? Why not screenwriting? Why editing?
So everyone goes to film school to become a director, and I had this realization about midway through my sophomore year at film school that, God, there are a lot of really talented people in my class, and the idea that all of us are going to get directing gigs immediately upon graduation is a little ridiculous. So perhaps I should focus on a craft just in case this directing thing doesn't work out. And editing was always my favorite part of the process because I feel it's the closest to directing. You are you're telling the story visually. You are crafting the performances. You're doing it from the comfort of an air-conditioned room. And interestingly enough, at the time when I made the decision, editing was the part of the process that required the least technical know-how. Because we were like, I learned how to edit on film. We were using a Steenbeck, a flatbed editing system. All you needed to know was how to thread it up, and you could be an editor. Being a cinematographer, you had to understand lighting, and you had to understand taking light meter readings and film stocks. You had to know all of this stuff. Editing was really just all about the art. And it really appealed to me, and that's what I focused on, and it's been very good to me.